Welcome to Booked All Night Season 2. Each week, Jess, Katie, and Maggie launch into new worlds, discover amazing characters, and bring you the best bookish discussions under the stars. We're a cozy little corner of the internet, so be sure to leave a comment and join the polls after each episode. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss a chapter. Alright, my little Libranauts, grab a seat, grab a book, and join us as we explore some new pages. Tonight we're launching into the first 7 chapters of Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, and I wrote on my notes that tonight we're launching into the first 7 chapters of Suzanne on the Reaping by Sunrise Collins. So, perfect.
Equally good title.
Yes, equally good title. It'll be fine. I don't even know I know where I want to start with this, right? Because I was so impressed with the voice, but I feel like I want to talk about the content of these first 7 chapters first, because it was so fast paced, especially in comparison to like Songbirds and Snakes. Songbirds and Snakes was very, very slow.
Yeah. My initial thought was like, wow, she must have really taken fan feedback seriously. Like, it feels like the last one, like she was like, I'm going to try this, see what people think. And then this book, she was like, no, got it.
Yeah.
Because this one like felt like a Hunger Games novel, while the other one did not. I was curious to see, like, all right, how long is it going to take? Yeah. And then I'm like, chapter 1.
Chapter the first.
Yes.
The Reaping. Yeah. Because I remember in the original trilogy, there's at least a few chapters before the actual scene of the reaping. And so I was like, okay, so by the time we get there to chapter 7, because we're only doing 7 chapters a week for this one, we'll probably hit chapter 7, and that's where the reaping will be. And Suzanne was like, haha, fooled you. No, it's chapter 1. Kids are getting shot. We're fine.
Kids are shot. Yeah. In the first chapter, kids are dying, in case you forgot what the shtick of the Hunger Games is.
Just in case you forgot that the Capitol hates everybody that's not from the Capitol. I really liked the scene because it's such contrast to the reaping that we saw in the original trilogy. Like, obviously, to start with, Effie isn't necessarily like a good character. She's got this kind of ignorant softness to her, but Drusilla comes in and she, like, the one kid gets shot because he tries to run away from the reaping. They shoot him in the head on camera, and her first reaction is just, what is this mess? Who made this mess? You did it on TV. Now we have to clean this up before we can do anything else. And it's just like, that kid's dead.
I believe she calls him a hog.
Yeah.
Or no, she says, like, get the body out of there, which was a line that, like, how it's like the mom starts freaking out once she hears that.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't see him as a human. Now, like, I was like, Suzanne Collins really does know how to write a villain.
Yeah, she really does.
From the beginning, I'm like, I hope this person dies.
Yeah. I was like, wow. Like, I didn't like Effie to begin with because I was like, wow, you're just so incredibly ignorant. But Drusilla, I actively want to watch fall down a flight of stairs.
Yeah, because it's not ignorance. It's like
malice.
Yeah. Ooh, yes.
Yeah, so Drusilla is just, like, full of malice. Even on the train, she's just like, ugh, oh my god, we have to feed them and bathe them. And she gets into that fight with Maisie, but Maisie's just like, yeah, I'm gonna hit you right back.
I was like, yeah, I want this lady to die. And then Maisie hits her, and I'm like, ooh, I think I want Maisie to kill you. Like, because, like, the fact that Maisie's not even, like, she's the nose in the air twin. I was like, oh, great, puppy, like, and, like, my prediction was, like, oh, she's gonna, like, chum up to the careers. Yeah. She's gonna be, like, she's gonna abandon her people, like, what a... And then instead she's like, I'm gonna stand up for myself, I'm probably gonna die. And I was like, oh, wow.
And she's so super catty in that moment, too, because, like, Drusilla finishes saying whatever she's like, and she's like, well, I hope you win, because you have no idea what's in store for you afterwards. And Maisie like, I know that my grandmother had a coat just like that, and we never let her leave the house in it.
It was like the old John Mulaney bit where he's like, middle schoolers, like, they'll insult you in a way that's personal. Like, look at that man with his high-waisted hips. It was like that kind of insult. Yes. Like, that's such... Just, she was like, knew exactly where to turn and twist the dagger. And I was like, oh, Maisie.
Yeah. She had that, like, sharpshooter.
Yeah.
She was just like, you, this ugly coat, Not dealing with it. I come from a district where people wear potato sacks, and that thing is hideous.
Awesome.
And there's so much side information, because, like, I know in the Discord we've talked about doing a reread of the trilogy and Songbirds and Sunrise together, and I'm wondering what is the best order to read them in at this point, because all of my knowledge, of course, comes from the original trilogy and Songbirds, and so anytime anything's mentioned, like anytime Haymitch touches alcohol, I'm like...
Oh, in the beginning when he says, I'm not much of a drinker, I was like, no, he is a drunk! Like, just like instantly, like, you broke this poor boy!
Yeah, he's like, I don't gamble, I don't drink. I'm like, no, my baby, my Shayla. Mm-hmm. I wanted to come in and be all cheeky in this first episode, right? With everything, be like, oh, my prediction is that Haymitch is going to win his games, and he's going to kill Maisie Donner to do it, and then they're going to kill his family when he gets out. Mm-hmm. Like, just to be, you know, we know these from the other books, and then they kind of allude to that right in these first 7 chapters, and I'm like, okay, fine, ruin all my fun.
Narratively, it's like watching Titanic. You know what happens at the end. Yet you're still going to, like, go on this journey because you're invested, not just in Haymitch, you're now invested in 3 characters that totally survived the entire thing. Like, depending on the order, I'm curious if Wires and Beatty, is that her name?
Beatty?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's Wyrus and Mags, who are the mentors for 12 this year, which was another thing I was going to be cheeky about and just be like, I bet Beatty, Wyrus, and Mags show up. And of course they do. All of them do. So
does Beatty show up?
Yeah, that got spoiled for me on the internet.
Oh, so I've avoided all internet. So I did wonder that. So I'm curious if it, like, they feel like rewards for, like, well, I guess I don't know who would read this without reading the other 3, right? But, like, if they would feel the same way reading it in, like, chronological order, if you'd be like, oh, they're back. Sweet. Gang. Like,
yeah. Like, that's part of what I'm questioning is, like, if I've read the original trilogy and then, like, did it in publication order, right? Mm-hmm. And so I know where this ultimately comes to, and this rebellion, and, you know, this, I think she's like 17 at the end, right? And she's just like, you know what? Kill everybody. Kill you, kill Coin, kill myself, whatever. Would that have the same effect if I read Songbirds and Sunrise first?
Mm-hmm. Alternate universe where I first read Songbirds. I think I don't read this book. Frankly, like, I don't think I'd be like, all right, this character sucks. I hope I never read another book about him again.
Yeah.
And 4 books from now, he'll die. I don't know.
That actually brings up a real good point, because one of my big problems with Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes was the voice. But, like, the voice in here is so amazingly well done. I have, like, a list of stuff because it's such a unique style, and it still gets that southern drawl out without doing little accent marks or, like, missing G's and other letters and just, like, little apostrophes where there should actually be a syllable or whatever. And it's done almost entirely through colloquialisms, right? There's with one limestone marker doing for us all, her being a baird, she says that's just a teaspoon of trouble and a river of wrong. Sure as the sun will rise tomorrow, he's unpredictable as lightning. She drips sugar as she goes for the jugular. I feel like a skinned squirrel. Like, all of these things, and they're all done without misspelling words or like overspelling words to make sure that certain phrases and sounds come out. Like,
yeah, like, that was something I was curious to see how it would play, and I was like, oh, it's easy and cheap. I think, like, either Southern, Appalachian, whatever, like, to just make them all like hillbilly hicks. And it's like, well, actually, if it's an accent, it's not like this weird dialect change, but it's throughout, and it's like adds to Haymitch's character as a non-drunk, like, starry-eyed lover boy.
I know. He's so innocent in comparison to what we know him as in the trilogy. And, like, I'm already sad. I'm 7 chapters in. This is...
Yes, I'm like, this is a real sad book to read right now.
This is torture.
also like empowering because I'm like, Suzanne Collins is a comrade. Like, she's like, oh, I'm going to come out with a book where I talk about televising, which, like, I don't know if it's just I'm older and, like, understanding the metaphors, the very obvious metaphors more about, like, the televising of, like, violence and, like, especially the hiding of, like, televising violence and then hiding it and, like, using the streams of the violence to be like, nope, this is actually what's happening. There's not more violence going on than we're even willing to show you. That, like, we'll show you certain violence, but not all the violence. And I was like, wow, it's like America. Yeah. But this book came out many years later and it's still relevant.
Yeah, I mean, Suzanne Collins has famously said she only writes when she has something to say. And so I'm like, okay, so here we are again in this dystopian hellscape. Thank you. And there are parts of it that obviously hit too close to home, right? Like putting a bunch of people on a train and sending them out, picking and choosing who's ultimately going to have their humanity revoked. Yeah. Why does that unfortunately sound familiar? I don't particularly like that it sounds familiar.
It sounds familiar, but I'm also like, oh, this is like the memes where it's like, all these college kids were raised on Hunger Games, and now you're mad that they don't put up with tyrants.
Yeah.
How could this? And I'm like, oh, good. These memes are going to age well.
Almost all of our popular media was about, like, sticking it to the adult and the man and flying in the face of injustice. And then they're like, I don't understand why this generation and everyone below it is
sticking it to the man and calling out injustice. What the heck?
Yeah, what do you mean you don't want to go along with the weird things that the government wants to do?
Yeah, because it's like that, but it's also you're watching them do it, which makes you as a reader be like, no, fight. Like, and like you're like, it's a call to action, like every chapter to like do something about injustice.
I think the scene where he stands up to the peacekeepers, which is ultimately what gets him into the games in the first place, because Woodbine had run and got shot, and then Lenore was like, oh my god, what are you doing? Don't touch him, like let his mom come and get him. And he goes over to protect her, and in standing up he gets punished. He's put into the games, and that's kind of a fear that I don't mean kind of a fear. That is a fear that a lot of people have, where it's like, if I'm going to stand up, what is going to happen to me? And it keeps people from standing up. And that's ultimately what happens here. Is 2 examples of why you don't disobey. If you run, we will kill you. And if you stand up and say no, we will kill you in a longer, slower way.
Well, wish we killed you quicker.
Yeah. And then we have Luella. Little baby Luella.
I don't know if this is my fatherly genes coming out. I like bawled. Being like this just nice little kid who's like 13. And then she, like, I was like, my son's 14. Like, it just like, I was like a mess. And like, of course, my son's like, you okay? And I'm like, no.
It had that Cedric Diggory feel for me all over again. We're like, he's dead. It's sad. There were so many beautiful lines leading up to that, right? Because right before they go out for the parade of the tributes, Haymitch pulls Luella up and he says, look at me. In every way, you are 1,000 times better than anybody in the Capitol. You are loved better, raised better, and a whole lot better company. You are the best ally I could ever hope for, okay, sweetheart? And he keeps referring to her as that because she, like, had a crush on him when she was, like, 11. And he's like, that's my sweetheart. Not Lenore. Lenore's my boo, right? But this is my sweetheart.
Lenore's my love. Yeah. She's my forever sweetheart.
She's my only sweetheart. And then
she says, you and me to the end. Hey. And I was like, it's one of the rare times in my life that I've gone back to highlight something to be like, oh no.
Yeah, I highlight like crazy, and that was definitely one of my, oh no. Because
2 pages later.
Yeah, because all I could think about was when her death comes, it's going to be heart-wrenching. It's going to be Rue all over again, where we're just like, she didn't need to die. Obviously, none of them need to die, but like, she's so young. She has so much ahead of her. And then
2 pages later.
2 pages later. Yeah. This hit hard, right? We're 7 pages in. This hit really hard. I mean, 7 chapters, not 7 pages. We're 7 chapters in, and this hit really hard. I wonder how much harder it would have hit if, like, Luella was the last tribute aside from Haymitch. You know, and that, like, he gets her to the end of the games and then he just has to kill her. Like, that would be nauseatingly saddening. And I believe the other tribute that is there is actually Maisie Donner. And she goes to attack him and he throws his axe into the shield because he's like, I'm going to die. Here we go. And then it, of course, comes roaring back out and hits her and he wins. And that's another thing, because we know how Haymitch's games end.
We know how the Titanic sinks.
Yes.
Like,
we know a lot of details about how the Titanic sinks and how many people drowned, and, you know, that there's actually just a bunch of, like, shoes and stuff at the bottom of the ocean because their bodies all wasted away. Like, we know a little too many details. And one of those big details is that because of how he won his games, his family and his girlfriend get murdered. And so when he's on the train and he sees Lenore and she cries out and they have that last little moment and he says, I'm never going to see my family again. I highlighted it. I was like, Suzanne, what are you doing to me? I'm only 7 chapters into this. Like, Suzanne, no, even that was like 4 chapters. That line. I was like, Suzanne, why?
Yeah.
Suzanne.
It took me like 3 chapters to be like, wait a second, I know this name.
Yeah.
But when he's like making them record it over and over and over again to make them sadder and sadder to say bye. I get it. You're documenting it for like prosperity's sake so that people can't say nothing bad is happening there. Yeah,
it's so everything they do is invasive, right? Even when they get to, it's not hotels, right? They kind of like put them up in a gym, in a training center. It's weird. It's not the training center that we know from the trilogy. It's just kind of like the Airbnb version of.
Yeah, well, they're like staying in Airbnbs effectively, right? Like, they're staying in Airbnbs, and the gym is, like, the rudimentary version of what we'll know it to become. But they're, like, they still have stations. It almost sounded like a job fair.
Yeah.
Like, a really crappy job fair. But, like, is kind of the, like, how I pictured it. Like, the ones in high school where somehow there's 5 military tables, you know. Like,
if you're lucky, there's 5 military tables. Yeah.
They're brought to bad hotels. Probably that there's cameras in the hotel rooms.
The invasion of privacy, right? They have all these hotels everywhere. There's even one in the bathroom. There's ones in the shower. There's ones in their bedroom. And Haymitch is like, gross, and just puts a towel over everyone that he sees. And I mean, that's just what Plutarch is doing as well. That they're moving in on these incredibly private, depressing moments for entertainment. And so, like, you know, we also know, unfortunately, that a thing they do to the victors is to sex traffic them, right? That's what they do with Finnick.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's what they had in mind for Haymitch, but Haymitch is like, you know what? Drinking and gambling. Nobody gonna want me now.
Which then it's like, they're then showing everyone their time in the hotel rooms, right?
So you've got Wyatt, and his family actively runs these bets. And Haymitch is like, you're a piece of shit. You, your family, everybody around you, absolute pieces of shit, and I hate you. And Wyatt's like, all I do is math, man. Like, I don't sell anybody anything. I don't take any money. You got the wrong part of this deal to be upset with me.
Like, effectively, his argument is like, I'm not a brown shirt. I just provide them with their clothes.
Yeah.
You know, like, not that, I mean, this is such an interestingly, like, complex character that's going to die that I'm like, is he actively harming anyone? Not really. I mean, I guess, like, gambling debt.
Especially in 12, where a large part of them are from the seam and have no money to be gambling with in the first place.
Yeah, like, in that way, he's, like, directly harming us down, but, like, he's not, like, selling, as far as I know. not selling people out for more. Like, he's not fixing the odds of who's going to get reaped by, like, selling people out and getting them more slips in. So it's like a weird, like, it's definitely bad. It's like, but how bad? There's
a part when they're sitting and they're, like, strategizing. I use this word loosely because Mags talks right now.
Oh.
And that breaks my heart because I'm like, meh.
Right there when it said it was Mags, I was like, man, they are screwed because she's just going to sit there quietly. And then she started talking, and I was like,
yeah, that first tag that was like, said Mags. I was like, said Mags?
She just points. Which then I'm like, I don't remember from the trilogy if it says why she doesn't speak. Which then, but like, I was like, wait, does she get whatever they were called?
Where they cut out their tongue? I think that's what happens to Mags.
Yeah, right. I was like, it must happen because of something that I assume is going to happen in this book that she's going to get punished for.
And then Wyrus also has not yet lost her faculties. So it's just like, it's another part of this where we're seeing people before the actual, I don't want to say the actual trauma, but like before the big trauma kicks in, right? Before Mags loses the ability to talk because somebody cuts out her tongue, before Wyrus goes absolutely insane and can only say like a few things at a time and they rarely make sense, before Haymitch is an alcoholic and a gambler and a degenerate and just like at the beyond the end of his rope, right? Like, we are seeing these people in their innocence. Mags talks and it breaks my heart because I'm like, oh no. Oh no.
The only thing I can think of that could possibly cause her, if we're talking predictions, to get her tongue cut is I think she probably wrongs Drusilla.
Yeah. I think she could do that. I think she could punch her because I don't feel like at this point that the victors are the celebrity that they are by the time we see Katniss's games. Because like once we get to Katniss's games, the victors are almost immune to a lot of stuff because nobody wants to see them get harmed.
That's how what's his name, Finnick?
Yeah, is
like able to get secrets, right? Is because like they still don't see them as people, even though they've won, but they're like immune to punishment.
Yeah, he's like, fine, you can sleep with me, which I don't actually want you to do, but put me in the group chat and tell me those classified details.
Yeah, they don't seem to be like the protected, like well-revered people. That's my prediction. Is like Drusilla's gonna like punish her.
Yeah.
Which also, all right. What's his name? Their stylist,
Magnus, who shows up in a diamond suit
with
no pants. It's
no pants.
Specifically stated without any visible pants.
And I'm like, I was like, Suzanne Collins clearly was like, who are the top 10 most beloved characters? Cinna. How do I make the opposite of Cinna? Like, so that you despise this person? Like, that's how it felt.
Yeah. That's a huge note that I have, actually, is that every person that we meet feels like the exact opposite of the crew that we met with Katniss. Like, I said it earlier, where like Effie was like ignorantly soft, where Drusilla is just pure malice and hatred for anyone that is not from the capital. Actually, not anyone that is not from the capital, because she obviously hates Magnus, but I think it's more because of what he is doing to her reputation, because he just doesn't care. And again, Magnus versus Cinna, one who was like, let's give you a statement to say, we don't have to put you in those overalls anymore. And Magnus doesn't even wash the overalls. Like, they're disgusting.
He makes them wash the overalls. Like, they're like, make sure you clean those. Like, he wants them clean before he gets them back. Which means if they don't, he does it.
Yeah. And they notably have like a smell and a stink to them. And then the only thing that he said that he changed, where she's like,
lightens them up.
Yeah, he lightens them up. He replaces the battery in the miners' hats. And that's it.
Which was kind of funny. In my head, I pictured like Jake the Snake Roberts carrying a bag, throwing it down, and just wandering out. Like,
bye!
Yeah. It was. I'm curious, based on previous how do the interviews go? If there's interviews, and how do they go? Because Haymitch, like, has kind of had his, like, girl on fire moment. Because it feels like in the original, right, it was like a celebratory part.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, let's get to meet him. That's American Idol. But this, like, because so much of it seems more still punishing and, like, less pageantry, I'm, like, terrified that it's going to be like, how's Lenora Dove?
Yeah.
Like we're going to show how awful your family is back home.
I want to get to Lenore Dove because I think it's important, but I want to say something about Songbirds first, because even then the pageantry was still about meeting the victors. I mean, meeting the tributes and introducing them and getting people to bet on them and donate and so they could fly drones into their heads because they didn't have really good technology with it. And this is such a stark comparison. Like when Lucy Gray Baird goes in, they're kept in the zoo.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're not really given any blankets or anything while they're out there in the zoo. The only food that they're getting is from their mentors, quote unquote. And, you know, they're just animals. They're not given any tips on going through the arena or how to fight or anything else. It's just that. So then we come here and they're like, well, we can't just unleash kids that don't know how to kill each other. So they're like, we're going to give you like a brief how to kill your peers 101 gym session. And on that, they're very, very careful during that session. It's something that they note that, like, we're learning how to throw knives at this station, but only one of us can have a hand on one knife
at a time.
And then, who is it? Panache comes over and tries to hit Haymitch because he hit his cart, because that's what's really important here. And Panache gets taken out by the peacekeepers, and Haymitch, Maisley, and Wyatt have a little, like, oh, we could have just jumped them. There's so many more.
We all have a knife right now.
Yeah, we all have a knife right now. And then
Suzanne
Plutarch
Collins
comes up, and he's like, yeah, the real question is, why didn't you? And I don't know how to feel about this Plutarch Heavensby, because I don't know if he is a two-faced ally yet, or if he is just, like, making his way in the capital.
What I'm guessing is we might get a reason beyond, I'm a good person, in this book. Like, because otherwise his reasoning is just like,
because I want a better show, like, because I need footage.
And then even when he is he's like the double agent, it's still like, why is he a double agent? It's like, well, that makes for a good story. But, like, I'm curious if we get more of a, like, heartfelt reason for why would he, like, apparently dedicate. Yeah,
if he, like, gets fleshed out as a character here. Yeah.
All right, it's this one's the 25th, right? Or is this the 50th? So for the 50th. Over the course of the next 25 years, he is working his way up the ladder. And, like, I feel like you don't dedicate 25 years of your life to a plan if you don't have a very solid reason beyond I'm good.
As I see it now, I feel like the reason that he works his way up is because he wants to make a name for himself in the capital and in the film industry of the capital, and it's got nothing to do with tributes or rebellion. I think what probably tips him is that after 20 some odd years in the industry, he's not the game maker. And so, like, Seneca Crane gets chosen over him, and Seneca Crane can't even shave his beard right. So it's just, it's obnoxious to see somebody who is younger than you, who has spent less time in this industry than you, somehow be ahead of you. And that, I think, is what would ultimately tip Plutarch Heavensby to be like, you know what? I remember that boy Haymitch. I'm gonna go talk to Haymitch.
I want it to be more than that, because I like Plutarch, even if I didn't recognize him. Literally did not recognize him because he's so different as a character, is why I think I was like, that name's familiar, but this vibe. I don't know this guy. Like, who
is this? Yeah. I had... Okay, one last thing before we jump into speculation for the next 7 chapters.
Choo-choo, speculation station.
Speculation station. But it's hard because we know so much from the rest of the books.
Yeah.
So But I want to talk about Lenore Dove, who is specifically named for Edgar Allan Poe's Lenore, and the dove because of the gray, and there's like a little...
The bird and the color.
Yeah, the bird and the color, and it's like, oh, why is your last name Dove? Because of the bird. Oh, you like the bird? No, the color. What color is that? Same as the bird. Got it. Yeah. And you get like a little covey background with her, and it's just, there was a Victor, right? And we know Lucy Graybeard. Which I was like,
yeah, girl.
Yeah. And then we learn a few things. One, Lenore Dove is a Baird. And her father is estranged and her mother is dead.
Alleged father is actually what it says, right?
Yeah, alleged father is estranged. And her mother is dead. And then I feel like it's supposed to be saying that Lenore Dove is a descendant of Lucy. But we never got a confirmation that like she lived after running away from the cabin, or that she was pregnant or anything like that when she did run away. So I don't think it's that. And I want to like remind myself constantly that Lucy also had a bunch of siblings, and it's absolutely possible that Lenore Dove is named for her and is like a niece. Yeah.
Descendant, but second cousin twice removed.
Adjacent descendant, you know?
Yeah, which there's a hint of that, because they like say how his best friend and her are cousins, but not
to like, the Everdeens.
Yeah, like they are cousins, but they're like distant. Like, but even though they're distant cousins, that doesn't change the fact that they know. Like,
yeah,
it's like like we're far apart, our family tree wise, but we're still just cuz.
Yeah. And like that's what I feel like, that like the branches are on the same tree, but it's not like the fruit falling down the next line kind of thing.
She also feels like the pebble in the shoe to me.
The pebble in the shoe.
Yeah, she's the not the beginning, but like she's the like reason why Haymitch will commit to I'm gonna tear down the Capitol, and I'll join 13 one day because like of what they did to her, like in like all of her like comments of like it's illogical to think that the sun will rise tomorrow just because it has today. There was one day that there wasn't a reaping. Why can't next year be no reaping? They're like all those like revolutionary thoughts. I was like, yep. Haymitch, who goes from like there's no point in I'm committing the slowest form of taking myself out possible.
Seppuku. The slowest form of seppuku.
Yeah, I'm doing that to like, no, I'll fight. I'll help the revolution. Like, you don't go from like, there's no point in getting out of bed to I'm going to fight in the revolution unless you have a very deep-seated love for someone who was like, way back when going, you need to be a revolutionary. Yeah. Like, you need to be a revolutionary. Even if it takes you 25 years to realize you're a revolutionary.
I think, though, even without her influence, that having his mother and brother murdered would also be that big tipping point.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he very clearly loves them and takes care of them and wants them to be safe and happy, and they won't get murdered because his axe bounced back. Like,
well, he should have thought of that before he used the bouncy axe.
Well, he wasn't trying to make it bounce. He was just trying to die. Like,
yeah.
But,
he can't even do that well. No.
Oh.
I like Haymitch. I'm sorry.
So, speculation station. How are these interviews going to go?
I think Wyatt's going to, like, Flavor Flav his other two. He's going to be, like, hype them up instead. Kind of like Peter did, right? Like, hype them up. I think Haymitch is going to be, like, used as a chance to try and, like, send a message to his loves. And I think Maisie is going to flash the crowd.
I think Maisie Donner is going to rock her inner Joanna and just come out and be like, yo, what the hoot? I don't want to hoot and go in there. Just hoot, 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 hoot. And then we're going to go in. right? Because this is already like pretty fast paced, and we're just going to
suffer.
Yeah, we are. We are just going to suffer because we already know how this ends. Did you ever read They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera?
Yes.
Yeah. So, for anyone who might not have read They Both Die at the End, it's literally the title of the book. You go into the book, it tells you that there is an app that tells them when they're going to die. Both characters have a notification that they're going to die that night. And you read the book and they fall in love and you're like, well, obviously they're not going to die now. And they do, in fact, both die at the end. It's literally the title of the book. It's even in the back copy, and then they both die. Like there's no hiding it. And I still went, no, they're not going to die. And I feel like that's exactly what's going to happen here. Knowing that all of these people are going to die, I'm going to be like, no, just like a little longer, right? They're going to be around just a little bit more. I also wonder two major things. Is the book going to end when Haymitch wins and goes home and finds his family dead? Or is there going to be more after that?
Because there's an epilogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the epilogue's going to jump ahead. Do I think it's going to like jump ahead to the 74th Hunger Games? Probably not.
I don't think it's going to jump that far, but my question is like, does it jump far enough to see Haymitch actively start with the rebellion?
I am curious to see the epilogue. Or does she montage 24 games of him being a shitty
how dare
mentor? Like just
Suzanne, I will revolt.
Let me show you how quickly I can break your heart. 24 times, real quick. Let's go.
She did it 1,000,000 times in just these 7 chapters. Like every time he touched alcohol, anytime he went with his family, and like sitting there and being like, I don't even drink that much. Oh my God, Haymitch. Haymitch, you are killing me.
Yeah, when he's like, because he's even like, Hattie gives him the booze to like drink with Lenore, and he's like, why would I drink it with her? For candy. I'm going to sell booze for a children's thing that she like gumdrops, and like literally couldn't be less the Haymitch we know later on.
Oh my God. My last thought, I just want to revisit how Luella's chapter went when she died in the parade, right? So it's, you are loved 1,000 times better, you're raised better, you're a whole lot better company, you're the best ally I could hope for. Okay, sweetheart, you and me to the end, right? Hey, you and me to the end, I promise. And then the next thing I know, I'm lying on the ground, my hand in a puddle of blood as the lights of the Capitol flash like fireflies above me. This is better, I tell myself. Better than dying in the arena, better than weasels and starvation and swords. I'm embracing that when I realize the blood isn't mine. That fate isn't mine, and the tribute who's escaped the arena is Luella. And I was like, why you gotta write this so beautiful? This is the most tragic thing in the world. Why would you do this? Suzanne!
It was painful to stop reading. So that I didn't have any idea what goes on. Like, it was genuine. Like, it's been a long time since I was reading a book and was like, oh, I'm right here. Dang. I wanted to be like, are you sure we're not doing chapters 1 through 8?
There have been so many books since we started doing it this way where like we usually do about 10 chapters each. And some books have aligned perfectly where it's like we're on such a cliffhanger, but it's a good place to stop and get that speculation going and see what happens next. This is one of the ones that's going to irk me every single week because we're going to read 7 and we're going to get to the next chapter and I'm going to be like, I gotta wait. I gotta wait. I don't want to wait. I'm so bad at waiting. But at the same time, I also know that we can't one-shot a book a week and remember what happens. So it's better this way for discussion. So do you have any other things to add, Davis?
Volunteer at your local nonprofit. Nonprofits really benefit from and thrive based on volunteer help. So anyone listening, find a nonprofit that you believe in their cause and give what free time you can.
Awesome. On that note,
That's a wrap on this episode of Booked All Night. We'd love for you to be a part of the conversation, so don't forget to rate the show, drop a comment, and share your thoughts in the episode poll. And remember, subscribing means you'll never miss an episode or interview as we launch into more amazing stories together. Booked All Night is produced by Rob Cook and his cats. So when you share your favorite episode, be sure to tag us at Booked All Night Pod on Threads, Instagram, and Facebook, and say hi to our guy in the sound booth. For more information, like reading schedules and dates on our upcoming interviews, check out the link in the show notes. That's link.bio/bookedallnight. lnk.bio/bookedallnight for those of you who don't check the show notes. Until next time, my little Libernauts, this is Jessica Mary, Kay Leigh, Magdalyn Ann, and producer Rob signing off and reminding you to stay booked all night.